Are we live?
We're live. Anthony's giving us the thumbs up. We're live.
We are up and away. Welcome to episode number 101 of the Practice Acceleration podcast. If you are joining us on the live stream, type in hey, say hello, give us a like, give us a share. If you're listening to this on our podcast via iTunes, either in your car, you're walking, maybe you're at the gym, then maybe you should join us in the future for our live stream. To tune in for that, go over to Practice Acceleration on Facebook or check us out on YouTube or even check us out on IGTV.
Hey guys, over there.
Hello to our IGTV viewers and welcome. So last week we talked about the changes in marketing and what you need to do instead that have occurred over the last 2 years since our first episode of the Practice Acceleration podcast. And today, this week, we are talking about the shift that you need to make from facilitator to patient leader. It's one of my favorite topics. I'm really excited, Sarah.
Yes, I'm really excited. So we're in part 2 of our 100 series. It's part of a 4-part series. I'm really excited. Last week, we talked about the changes in healthcare marketing and what you need to do to really stay ahead of the curve. So what I'd love to know, if you're in the live stream, just type in marketing. If you tuned into that episode, type that in. I'd love to know.
Type in marketing if you joined us for that last week.
And if you haven't watched it, if you're not typing in marketing right now, or if you're driving in the car and you're like, oh, I have not seen this episode.
Go back and do that.
You have to go back and do it, because we talked all things marketing, all things changes in marketing since our first ever episode, which was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I can't believe it. So long ago now.
We had a whole heap of fun. If you guys wanted to watch us on the live stream, we had balloons and we had a party. It was all sorts.
It was all happening.
It was all happening here. There was stuff flying everywhere in the air, but we had heaps of fun. We talked about these key points. We talked about how competitive it has gotten online.
Hyper competitive now. It's crazy.
Competitive. We talked about how ad costs are rising and what you need to do to stay ahead of the curve. And we talked about how brand right now is a major player.
Sure
and
is.
We talked about how you can scale up your ads so you don't have to have those crazy costs, change your mindset. And finally,
we talked about the new way to grow your business.
Way to grow your business. So please go back and watch it if you haven't, because that's part 1 in our series. We're now in part 2.
Do all.
And in our series, we thought, it's because it's our 100th series, I want to do something fun. We're doing a giveaway.
Yes.
So if you want to get access, what can they get access to enter the competition?
Yeah, so 3 lucky listeners and viewers will go into the competition to win our Facebook New Patient Engine, which is a course which shows you how to get new patients from Facebook every day on autopilot on demand. It's valued at $2,988 US dollars. So if you want to go into the draw to that, hang around to the end and we'll show you exactly how to do that. So let's jump in, shall we, Sarah?
Yes, let's get into it. So the problem you have to overcome right now with patient management is there's been a massive shift.
Sure has.
A massive shift in power.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we think about it, like healthcare brands, and healthcare companies, private practice owners must now learn to compete in a world of really infinite supply, and the patient has got all the power. So when there's an oversupply of services, which there is right now, what happens is the power shifts towards the consumer. Because there's just so much supply, and in many cases more supply than there is demand. So it's really important that we actually bridge that gap.
So the problem that you really have to overcome with patient management right now is there's been a shift, a really massive shift in power.
Correct. There's been a huge shift of power. It's a shift away from the practice owner and a shift very much in favor of your prospective patient or your patient. So if you think about it, there's really, right now, healthcare brands and companies like you guys watching have to learn to compete in a world of infinite supply where the patient has now got all of the power. There's literally more supply of private healthcare services than in the history of the world. And when that happens, what it means is the consumer has got so much more choice, which means they are really calling the shots. It's a really big problem for you guys. And the reason why it's a problem is because when there's an oversupply and the consumers feel like they've got all the power, what they're doing is they're really treating you like a commodity, and they're behaving as if we're still stuck in the information economy. And they treat you guys like a facilitator. And what I mean by a facilitator is they're treating healthcare practitioners and healthcare business owners as a conduit, really, aren't they? Treating them as a way of getting from here to here. And you can't run your business like we're in the information economy, or what's going to happen is you'll be at the mercy of your market. And what your market will be screaming out for is instant gratification, number one, and also driving down prices.
Cheapest price.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what happens when there's an oversupply. So what you guys need to understand is we're actually in the transformation economy, and we need to make sure that your patients are aware of that, because they're going to be coming in at you and they're going to be making demands of, I want you to treat me in this way, I want to get it at this price. And we need a strategy, and you need a strategy to actually show them we're in the transformation economy, so that you can actually get your patients to follow your advice and to do it in a way whereby they value you, and in doing so, you actually fill your practice as well.
Exactly right. And you kind of touched on this before. There is so much more competition.
It's madness.
It's madness. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but in healthcare, there's a practice on every single corner that you go to.
Often many on each street corner as well.
Yes, and if you're watching this, just type in notice. If you're watching this on the live, if you notice, there's a whole heap of competition now. And you talked about the patients have all the power because they have so much choice.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's really good that consumers are empowered through choice, but what I don't like is that when there is so much choice, what can happen is, because we're humans, we're like, well, there's so much choice. Which one will I choose?
Yeah.
And we start coming in and going, well, what can you do for me? And I think it's very dangerous in healthcare because we're talking about health. So the problem is we've got an oversupply, and we've an audience coming through going, well, if there's an oversupply, I want to bargain on price. But not just that, they actually come in and they've researched certain techniques and go, well, I want this type of treatment.
Yeah,
so that's not necessarily going to be right for them in terms of their healthcare solution. So
we talk about researching it, Dr. Google.
Yeah,
and
Dr.
we've
Google.
all done it.
Dr. Google says, I need this.
We've got our phone and we get on there and we're like, I've got this issue, I've got that, and then you're like, oh my God, the world is over. I've got this problem. I'm going to go in and that's exactly what I have. I need to go fix that.
Type in if you've ever done that. Type in me if you've ever done that. And
I've done that.
We've all done that. So this actually happened quite recently, and in my own house, like Melissa, who's a healthcare professional herself, she's a dietitian. My father-in-law is a general practitioner.
Yeah.
My background's in physiotherapy, so she's got access to some really great information. But rather than actually talk to people around her, she'll use Dr. Google and she'll go, this is a treatment I need. I'm like, hang on, no, you actually need to talk to a professional. And lo and behold, the advice that her physiotherapist gave her, one of our clients, mind you, was totally different to what she Googled online.
Yeah, so patients, we think we're the experts. We go on there, we Google it.
We do it too.
We want it our way.
Yeah.
And so when we go in there...
And at the cheapest price.
At the cheapest price as well. And that kind of brings us to the next point. They do. Now that they can Google, there's so many practices on every single corner. I go in there and I'm just going in searching, I want the cheapest price.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want you guys competing on price, because that means that you're going to be commoditized. So let's talk about the really important shift, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about the big shift that you need to make with your patient management.
So I think the overall, the global theme is we need to shift from a position of getting led to actually leading the transformation. So, in any conversation, someone's getting led and someone's doing the leading.
Exactly.
And whether that be an inquiry online via Messenger, or someone doing a direct message on Instagram, or an email. Or even a phone inquiry.
Yeah.
In those conversations, someone's always getting led, someone's always doing the leading. And what we're seeing is that more and more now, because of the oversupply of healthcare and the commoditization of services, the desire for instant gratification, is your future patients are leading that conversation. Yet here's the danger. They're not qualified to lead it. They're definitely qualified to choose who they want to work with.
Yeah.
But they're not qualified to lead that conversation because they'll make the wrong choice about their healthcare. So let's take that one step further and talk about what happens when a patient's actually in the clinic, shall we?
Let's talk about the patient in the clinic,
the
in the
initial
consult room.
Yeah.
So you really need to shift from being a facilitator to being a leader in the consult rooms. You need to become that leader in the consult room. So first of all, let's kind of discuss that, Tristan, and talk about what is a facilitator.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about facilitation and what it means to be a facilitator, and then you guys watching and listening can ask yourself if you're doing any of these things right now. And certainly, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing that you've been doing this, but I want you to be aware of it so we can shift from facilitation to actually leading. So a facilitator is like, it's almost like you're a guide. Like a patient comes through and you're facilitating the journey that your customer, in this case, the patient, is actually requesting.
Yeah.
So you're a facilitator, you're a conduit. But the problem here is your patient isn't qualified to actually know what they need. And in healthcare, it's your obligation to actually help them. So a person that's facilitating rather, the patient will come through and say, hi, I'm here for blah.
Yeah, hey, I've been on Dr. Google, I've got back pain, and I need you to do this.
Yeah,
they're facilitating, taking charge.
So they may come through and they may request a certain type of treatment, or they may request a certain type of service, or they may even let you know what they're willing to spend on their services, or even what sort of advice they're willing to follow.
I need to come in for one appointment. That's all I need.
Yeah, I'm here and I just need stretches, for example.
I need to do this.
I'm here and I've got this. I need this problem fixed in X, Y, Z time. Like, they're actually making the request and you're facilitating. So let's compare and contrast that to leadership.
Let's talk about the leadership. If you're the leader in the room.
Yeah. So I think this has always been the way, by the way, but it's just exacerbated further now because of the advancements in social media marketing. Because the barrier to entry is so much lower than ever before in setting up a clinic, it means that there's hyper competition. We've commoditized our services. Well, we haven't, but healthcare have globally, and also there's instant gratification and so on.
You can no longer be a facilitator. It might have been all right back when there's not that many clinics around.
Yeah.
Now there's everyone on every corner.
Yeah.
We can go online. We can decide who we want to go and see. We can go see one practitioner. I'm sick of that person. I'm going to go over here.
Exactly.
So you need to shift to being a leader. So what would a leader look like in the room?
Yeah, perfect. So before I even speak about that, I just want to say, the common responses people have to being a facilitator. If you're a facilitator and you want to fix your business, the number one thing you need to do is shift from facilitation to leadership.
Yes.
But here are some things I see people that do to try to fix that. They're like, oh, my patients aren't following my advice. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to get more patients that'll fill my books.
Yep.
Problem is, you'll attract more people that end up leading you. The other thing they'll say is, oh, I know what I need to do. They're saying no to my advice because I'm charging too much.
Yeah.
So put our prices down.
And
so what happens is you end up marketing, getting more of the same people, or you end up putting your fees down, or a combination of both, or you're fearful to put your fees up. What happens is, in relation to the rest of your environment, you're actually shrinking and you're falling apart.
Yeah.
Instead, what you should do is shift from facilitation into leadership, from a facilitator to a leader. So a leader inside the healthcare consult, they take control, they recommend what the patient needs, not necessarily what they want to hear, they recommend what they need to hear.
Exactly.
I mean, that's your role as a healthcare professional, to shine a light on the areas that need attention of your patient, show them exactly how to do it. And it's your absolute obligation to make sure that not only are your patients informed of what they need to do, but it really is your obligation to try everything in your power to actually get them to follow it. So let's talk about ethics for a moment, and we're going to talk about what people may think about this approach coming up so we can handle those questions and potential objections. But it's my belief that as a healthcare professional, it was always my obligation as a physiotherapist, and it's the obligation of my clients and for you guys watching and listening, it's your obligation to ethically recommend what the patient needs in order to get the outcome, not necessarily what they want.
Exactly.
So if we think about, and we talk about Mark in our podcast a little bit, our accountant, we don't go to our accountant and go, hey, Mark, here's what I want. We go to our accountant, we go, hey, Mark, what do we need? He goes, here's what you need to do. We don't then dilute down his information and go, that sounds really good, Mark, but we'll try it our way.
Try this, or going to the mechanic.
Exactly.
Something like that. Hey, take my car to the mechanic and I want to get it fixed. And I think you should do this, this, and this. I have no clue. I trust in the mechanic.
Exactly.
Because he's the expert.
100%.
So why in healthcare do we let patients just do whatever they want and walk all over it? Hey, this is my treatment. I want to do this. No, you're the expert. So you should recommend wholly what you believe that they should be doing, and they should be accepting it.
Exactly correct. And so one of the reasons why patients don't follow advice or accept advice is because the lack of that leadership inside the actual consult. So if you want to make that shift, just type in shift beneath here. I'd be very interested to know who wants to make that shift. In fact, all of you need to do it. And even if you're doing it already well, chances are other people in your team need to make that shift as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's a lot of people out there, Tristan, who you're probably listening in the car, you're thinking this, or you're watching it as we go through.
Yes.
People say, but isn't it really pushy to be leading in the room, or isn't it kind of salesy when you come across that? Let's talk about that kind of objection people have in their head. Because I know they're saying it. I know you guys are thinking it, because I've heard it tons of times before. So let's just talk about that.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I'd actually like to speak to that point. And I realised this whole time I'm kind of moving my microphone around, and I've actually got the lapel on. That's where my audio is coming from. But so if you're listening or you're watching and you're thinking, hang on, that sounds pushy or even salesy, then no problem. I'd forgive you for thinking that, because there was actually a time when I used to think that as well. But I want to talk about pushiness and salesiness for a moment. So the reality is, most people that actually think that, they haven't tried it or they haven't tried it properly. So a leadership experience is actually taking charge with confidence. And we'll give you some tips on how to do that in a moment. But when you do that properly, the way we recommend, it's neither pushy nor salesy. It's just coming from a position of absolute belief and absolute confidence. So I typically find that it's those people that are saying, oh, you're being pushy or you're being salesy. I find that they are actually the most pushy and the most salesy of all, because what they do, people that cry foul, like typically they're the ones that see patients, and if they've got an easygoing personality and they've got a more difficult personality, both have the same condition, it is those people that recommend more services to the easy personality and less to the difficult personality. And the reason for that is they're terrified of rejection. If they're to be really honest about it, they're scared of failure, they're terrified of rejection. So they make the recommendation based on personality type, which I believe is totally unethical.
That's unethical.
So the only ethical approach is to recommend best practice all the time. And is that salesy or pushy? Absolutely not. I think that you should be guiding your patient to the best possible outcome. And if they don't want to follow your advice, that's totally okay. You can't force them to do it, but you need to let them know, here's my advice. And whenever I was seeing a patient, say, here's my advice. Here's what you need to do to get the outcome, in my opinion. Would you like to do it, yes or no? And if they came back and said, hey, can we do it differently? I'd say, absolutely do it differently. Which part of the outcome that I've recommended, which part of the outcome that you want, would you like to forego? Because if you don't follow my advice, you can't get the outcome. It's that simple. I just want to be crystal clear. You can change the pathway, but if you change the pathway, you're changing the result.
You're not going to get the result.
So it's, and I always say to a patient once again, I'm concerned that I want the outcome more than you want it for yourself. And I can't have you out there in the community talking about the result you get and tarnishing my reputation. So let's not work together if you're not going to follow my advice. But that's my approach.
That's a really common problem. Like the patient's trying to dilute the treatment plan. And you as a practitioner, you don't want to hang your hat on that. They're going to go out there and go, oh, I went to this clinic and they didn't give me that result. But reality is the patient didn't accept what you recommended there.
Exactly. And like getting acceptance of your recommendations, it's got nothing to do with being pushy or salesy.
Not at all.
It's got to do with a number of other factors, of which we're going to dive into just shortly.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about a personal experience as well, because I've been to a clinic where a clinician has been a facilitator.
Yeah, you've been to many. This keeps happening over and over again.
This keeps happening to me all of the time. I've been to many of those, and I just go in and I just walk into the room and they go, see how you feel after one appointment, and I'm with my neck pain.
And you've had a chronic neck condition for the best part of 5 years.
If you've been following this podcast, you've probably heard me talk about it a lot, because I still have the same problem and I don't understand how to get it fixed. So I go in there because they don't feel confident in what they're recommending. They're not sure that I'm going to accept any of it. In the end, it's just diluted treatment. Hey, come back and see how you feel. I go away, and then I think another month down the track, I end up having the same thing.
Exactly.
Versus I have been to a clinic where I was given a treatment plan. They took charge. They took me through the whole process, and I booked it all in.
Exactly.
Because it made total sense to me. I wanted that outcome.
And was that pushy or salesy?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Exactly. And now you go back there, you like it, and you haven't referred to that clinic. So there's proof in the pudding right there. If you want more patients like Sarah, ones that are willing to follow your advice and pay you and refer, that's how you need to conduct yourself. So let's talk about what a couple of the traits, what it looks like to embody leadership in the actual treatment room.
Exactly right. And I want to talk about this, Tristan. In the room, words is actually only 10%.
Yeah.
Of what comes across.
What you actually say is 10%.
What you say is 10%. 45% of that is your body language. So being the leader, think about what a leader would look like.
How you carry
yourself. Shoulders back, strong stance. You're not going to be slumped over, side onto your patient, anything like that. Hey, meet you in the consult room, strong handshake.
Yeah.
Come with me, take a seat. Think about if you go to a doctor's clinic, when they're standing out there, there's a million other people in the waiting room, and they come out with their clipboard, their heads down.
Yeah.
Sarah Pappas. Well, they actually say my long name, Papadopoulos.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they can say
They probably can't get it out, so they probably say Pappas.
And then you come over and you're like, oh, yeah, that's me. They've already got their back to you. They don't even greet you. Cool, come sit down.
Yeah,
like, whole experience.
How does that make you feel? How much confidence do you have in them when they approach
I have no confidence. And then they sit there, they're like on their laptop, probably on Dr. Google as well. So think about that. Posture and body language, just making that one shift is massive.
Exactly.
So really strong stance, greeting them. The second thing, so words is 10%.
Words 10%, 45% is body language.
And the next is 45% is your tone.
Yeah.
So coming across, how certain are you with what you're recommending, what you're talking about with the patient, how you're uncovering all of that? That's tone, and that comes across with confidence.
Exactly
how you
right.
Speak.
So this is in person. So let's think about like when someone actually can't physically see you, for example, they make an inquiry on the phone, then what happens is that it's still 10% of the actual content, the words you're actually saying. So I know a lot of people like, can I have the right script for this? And you're like, well, script is only ever going to make up 10%.
Yeah.
So in those instances, 90% is made up of tone. You know, the belief that you have in what you're saying, how you're leading that phone conversation, 90% tone.
Yeah, because we're thinking on the phone, you're putting a picture to that person.
That's right.
So the strongest leader, what do you think? They're going to have a strong tone. When you think about a leader, someone leading the room, strong tone, that instantly comes into my mind. Someone who's a facilitator, really weak, not confident, then you get that picture in your mind.
Exactly. So often when we're at events, people come up to me and go, Tristan, you don't look like what I visualized. And I'm like, why is that? They're like, I thought you'd be a lot taller. Because when people talk to me, they're like, that guy must be 20 feet damn tall, you know? Because I talk like it. When they meet me, they're like, hang on, this guy's under 6 feet. Like people have a visual picture based on how you sound, right?
So if you could just make that one shift in your business, start owning the room.
Yes.
So focusing on better posture, the way you greet the patient, the way you talk to the patient, the more certain you are with your treatment.
Even the way you dress.
Think about that, the way you dress, the way you look. Everyone puts a picture in their mind how someone dresses. Think, does that person look sharp?
Yeah.
Or do they not? Then that's how you're going to judge someone.
Exactly.
It's all in that. So just make that one shift in your business and you're really going to explode.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've been talking about today is a shift from being in the facilitation mode into leadership mode. And it really is important in particular right now when patients are looking for the cheapest opportunity, they want instant gratification, and they also want to guide you on your treatment. The reality is that now more than ever, it is your obligation to actually guide a transformation, particularly with so much competition coming up. If you get commoditized, you're cooked. It's really up to you to take charge and lead. And it's not just your obligation for your business, it's your obligation for your patient. Like you've got an obligation, an ethical obligation to take charge and go, look, stop, Mr. Patient. I understand exactly what you need. Why don't I just guide you through exactly what's going to happen today? And I'm going to show you where to from there. And then I'm going to show you some solutions. And then you can make a decision whether you like to follow that advice or not. Does that sound good, Mr. Patient? But you need to take charge and have a process. You need to walk the talk. You need to dress the part. And you need to take charge with tonality. It's one of the best ways to actually turn your practice around. And by the way, these tactics we're talking about right now with patient management, they're the same tactics you need to embody with actually managing and leading your team. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Today was episode number 101. It's episode number 2 of our 4-part series for our 100th episode. We do have a special prize. So the prize is for 3 lucky listeners and viewers. You can participate in our competition, and the winners, 3 winners, will get our Facebook New Patient Engine course. It's an online training course which shows you how to get new patients every single day on autopilot from Facebook. It's valued in US dollars at $2,988. It is absolutely insane. If you want to go into the draw, what should these guys do?
So if you guys want to go into the draw, if you're on our Facebook Live, you can type in 100 into the comments, and then our team are going to send it out. If you're in the car and you're listening to this, then it's practiceacceleration.com/100. When you click on that link, what's going to happen is it's going to open up to a page, and there's going to be a couple of steps that you need to complete. First of all, you need to be a subscriber of our podcast to enter the competition. Really easy. Just click subscribe on iTunes and you'll be able to be a subscriber. Number two, what we need you to do is leave us a glowing review.
Yes, a 20 out of 5-star review.
If you can do a 20 out of that, then obviously a better review, then you're going to get higher up in the competition as well. And then finally, step 3 is you enter your name and your email, the name that you left the review with, so we can cross-check to make sure that you followed the steps. And then you're going to go into the competition to be one of those prize winners, and we will be announcing the winner after our 4-part series at the end of this. So make sure you head on over to practiceacceleration.com/100 and follow those steps to enter.
Yes, absolutely do that. So guys, make sure you do that right now. We're going to wrap up this episode. If you have any other comments, please pop them into the feed, and we're going to circle back. We'd be delighted to answer them for you personally. But other than that, let's wrap this episode up. Guys, that is it for episode 101. We're going to see you in next week's episode number 102. Stay tuned. It's going to be a blockbuster as well. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.